Go.
All
Uh,
Go.
right. Well, let's do this. Let's do this thing, huh? All right. Welcome to the Not Just Fleet podcast. I'm joined today by Drew, Facundo, Mike, and I'm Brent. Combined, we have over 70 years of fleet experience, and we're all about improving ourselves and the people around us. On today's episode, we're going to start out chatting about the 100 Best Fleets contest that we're mid entry right now. All of us except for Facundo because his own garage doesn't qualify as a fleet currently. So I think someday, though, buddy. I think someday.
I think just to clarify on this years of experience, Drew has about 65 of those years of experience, right? Drew?
Right, that's right. I've had a birthday since the last podcast. I'm not going to be shy about it.
Me too? No. Mine was in November, so never mind. See, I'm so old. I'm so old. I don't even remember when my birthday was. So whatever.
My beard's even grown out, and I don't look as old as you, Facundo.
Right. This is what I get because when I have to talk to you, I get all this freaking white hair. All right. So 100 best fleets, huh? Go ahead.
Fleets. So we're all in some capacity either previous award winners at previous jobs, award winners at current positions. 3 out of 4 of us are applying. Like I said, our 4th member can help guide you if you need assistance. I'm just going to throw you out there right now, Facundo, that reach out if you need assistance getting this stuff put together. He's good friends with a lot of the judges and also has experience because you're what, 7-time 100 best. The younger audience is now happy with you. Okay, the older audience needs.
I'm in the middle of this every single day. So anyway, yes, rank 7 times. People's folks are like 19, 18 or 19. That's a good question. I think it was 19. Yeah.
So, top 20 contender. Not quite as good as Drew.
We have a bucket of 30. 7 is a lot easier to get than when you have a bucket of 100. But it's all in opening up the application, right? And that's what we talked about last year, Facundo and I. Mike is going to be, open up the application this year at a new role. It is very intimidating. I was talking with a guy that is on the Northeast Council with me. He's down in Connecticut. He hasn't applied yet, and we were talking about the whole application. It is very overwhelming, a lot of anxiety when you first open it. Any of the webinars that you listen to about the NAFA 100 Best Fleets, they will say the greatest thing about it is once you apply, you can go and get an application review at INE. And I'll tell you what, it made me feel so much more comfortable to apply this year. Getting the review from Mike Brennan was awesome. Cool thing about the review as well is they rank every category, I think, on a 1 to 5 scale. So they'll even give you the number that you hit in that criteria. So that way, you understand where you need to work. And then you can also look at the ones that you scored real high in, and you can use a lot of maybe similar tactics when you go at it this year. So, or when you go to apply again, I'm very excited about applying. I think one of the interesting things that I heard at Connect this year was use the 100 Best Fleets application as your roadmap for your fleet on a day-to-day basis. And I really took that and kind of, now that I'm looking at the application, trying to figure out, okay, monthly, quarterly reports, weekly reports. I want to run things each and every week so that I'm very familiar with the material so that next year when I apply again, it'll be even easier.
Yeah, that's true. And that's one thing kind of going off of that. That's what I do. And I think we may have talked about that last time we all talked about 100 Best Not on the podcast. I put everything into like a OneNote and I just list all the criteria. So I already have criteria that I'm building for next year. And I just write bullet points of like, okay, so collaboration. What have I done to collaborate with this department? What have I done to collaborate with this department? How am I collaborating here? Or time efficiency or whatever all the other ones. There's so many. But like you said, when you open it, when you start it, if you don't do that throughout the year, it's definitely intimidating trying to open it, start it, and get it all done in like the month and a half that you have to get it done. Because it sounds like a lot of time, but we all know how busy our jobs are, and even on our slow days, where we still barely have enough time to get up and walk around. So to sit down and actually pencil in time, I think a lot of us even probably do this at home a little bit too. There's a lot of off hours of this, but that's why I try to do my best to try to build those like KPIs or just those metrics now and say, okay, I did this, right? Or just quick notes and just keep processing that way. That's one thing that I really do, or I try to do every week at least. Or if I'm doing something, I'm in the middle of something, I say, all right, this would be great for 100 Best Fleets. Do that, and then just keep editing it as the project goes on and things like that.
No, yeah, 100%. To jump on that also, I actually have gone through my calendar and I have a quarterly appointment set that I have half a day blocked off once a quarter to go through and actually just review my previous application and find the updates to the material that are current. So that when it comes around to the end of the year and application time, I at least have a lot of my information. And then I have quarterly check ins. So I have the progress through the year that I can also illustrate. Because that is talking to the judges. That's one of the biggest things is show how you've progressed, whether it's year over year or you initiated a new policy midway through a year. How did that impact things? And just show the results, show what's going on, that you're making improvement. And be honest about it. Don't lie.
Biggest thing is don't lie, because they could ask for data and stuff like that and then catching it. I mean, you look like, be truthful, because everybody's at different places in their career. And it doesn't matter if you just found out about the 100 best and you've been at a place for 10 years, you're entering it for the first time and it doesn't, maybe your KPIs are all out of whack or whatever, or if it's your first time, like when I was with Tarpon Springs, that was my first time and we did very good. Especially for somebody entering it the first time, we did very good, but it still was like kind of a mess because but I was very truthful. That's why it looked like a mess. But it also is, if it is a mess, what are you doing to progress? So next year you can show, hey, we were all like this, but now we're kind of plateauing and we're even on a slight slope and we're progressing here, and here. So those different things you can do as well.
Facundo, you and Scott had a pretty good post up on LinkedIn either today or yesterday or something like that. Why don't you talk about a couple of the tips that you had on there? I thought they were pretty good.
I don't remember the post, but well, you know me, I'm always posting. Oh, wait. It was something that was posted. I think my tip, I don't remember what he had said, but what I had said was, so, I've heard of all the excuses, right? Like uh, I'm not ready, or we don't have this, or we're not doing that, or we're going to start tracking that metric next year, or I got too much stuff going on. It's just like, look, dude, I've heard this. I've been there. Like, just start. And you don't have to have an answer for everything, although there is a strategy that you can leave the answer completely blank and you can still submit it with, half of the application filled out. And like Mike said, like, don't make stuff up, because there's context to what you're saying. Because if you say that your PM compliance is 25% and your asset availability is 100%, they're going to be like, show me the numbers. Show me the numbers, because that doesn't make sense. So that's why, like, I don't know, let's say that you're tracking PM compliance, but for some reason you're not tracking asset availability. The way to talk about that is, you're not tracking asset availability. You're going to this year. Here's a metric, whatever number you want to start, you want to put it at, and say, you might be able to say, and here's one thing we're going to do about it, right? Or, you can talk about it more in the essay. But if you leave, it's like the old, you miss every shot you don't take, right? So if you're not putting something in there that's coherent, then you're not going to get points. But if you say something, you can get points. And a lot about of the application is some of the leadership style and the direction that you're taking your fleet in. And so if they see that you're doing things and you're filling in the blanks with some directions that you want to go in, that's worth some points. So don't leave anything blank. That's my biggest bit of advice: is start and don't leave stuff blank.
And I think one thing when I'm done, I know Brent's going to have a lot to say off of that because I know that was kind of where Brent started as well. As I think your boss ended up kind of thinking you weren't ready, but you're like, no, let's go ahead and do it. But I'll let you tell that story. But one way where this year specifically, one of the I don't remember it specifically. Uh,
This
energy
year
save.
specifically, but you don't remember specifically. So is
Shut
it
up.
specific or not really specific?
I do
You're
not. I do not recall.
Specifically not specific, but yeah.
I plead this specifically fifthly. What's energy resource or whatever? Like they're basically talking about EVs or I don't remember that. I don't remember the title of that, but at the sheriff's office where I'm at right now, we don't really do a lot of like EV hybrid. We're starting to implement some hybrids, but what I did is I said, hey, we don't have electric vehicles, we don't have plug-in hybrids, but we're starting to do some hybrids. This is how we're tracking, this is where we're implementing. And then I also told them why we don't do it. We can't do it because we're a sheriff's office where a lot of our vehicles are ran by deputies and we just don't have that resource or we don't have like that need for an EV. But I also told them in other areas of like, some detective vehicles, some admin vehicles are hybrid and we're just starting to implement that. That's one thing where you may not officially be doing it or you may just be starting it, but you still want to try to fill everything out. Even Mike Brandon says that you still want to put something in there and let them know how you're going. And Facundo, you said it too, how you're going to be doing it next year or what you plan on doing next year in the future, how you plan on bringing it to a board or whatever. There's different things that you can put in there to take up some space.
So, Mike, I want to put this out here for you to remember as you're filling out your app. I know that section you're talking about. It doesn't necessarily mean EV, it's resource efficiency. So, with this is something cool that you can pull in because telematics has been something that's been huge for freaking ever. If you have a policy in place or you're tracking, like, say, idle time for excess idle, if you have a policy in place that says you can only idle for 15 minutes and maybe you're adding an auxiliary battery to run your emergency lighting so they can shut down, that's resource efficiency.
Resource efficiency, that's one of the 4 pillars of fleet success. But is that the word? Okay. Now I'm looking.
There, it specifies that it's like natural resources, human resources, financial resources, all of that stuff. So that's your money savings. That's going out and getting cost-effective bids. That's going out and getting the most efficient vehicle platform for the job need. Which in the case of any real police agency, Tahoes are it.
Yeah, baby.
Here we go. We're starting
Yeah,
the
baby.
rant. The
And
anti-blue rant.
hey, man, I gave Ford a lot of props the last show because they're doing a good job actually fixing what's broke. Now, if they could just keep it from breaking, we would be really good. That's all car companies.
It's kind of funny how this little bit of a segment started with Facundo talking about people say that they're not doing this or they're not tracking that. Because I think when you read the criteria, you can't make it so black and white. And you have to read it, see if it does apply to your fleet and or kind of open up the onion layers and say, hey, maybe, resource efficiency doesn't 100% happen in my fleet, but there are things that we do that, falls into the criteria. The availability thing is a perfect example in my fleet. When a vehicle goes out of service, somebody doesn't necessarily go into a software where we can particularly track that. But Facundo and I talked about it, a bunch last year when we were trying to figure out what my availability is, and we have never not been able to respond to a call because vehicles are out of service and or respond to surge times. So then we started tracking a little bit differently, and you look at it and, hey, I don't have it down on a piece of paper, but at the same time with different pieces of software, I can say, hey, listen, we have, 90% availability all the time, so I think you really got to kind of open up what they're asking and look and see at your own fleet, hey, is there really something that we're doing that's similar to this that I can use that info to answer this question, honestly and factually, and, be able to back it up.
Resources stewardship. That's what they say. I just looked it up. And that it was gonna bug me because you're right, Brent. It's all resources, including human, capital, and natural. So it's basically anything that you're doing to be green-ish. Yeah, exactly, something like that.
I mean, that could even be more efficiency in the shop or something like that, right? I mean, it definitely, you're using time.
The LED motion detection.
Management. Sorry.
Which energy
Sorry.
management?
Energy management.
Yeah. So again, that's something that, and going back to conversations I had last year with Mike and Steve and all that, is they have KPIs that they specifically like to see. If you don't have a KPI that you track that is one of theirs that they like to see, explain what your KPI is that you're giving them info on. So it's like you might not track availability, as far as being, hey, 95% is the standard. Or you might track availability differently than a lot of other people that, like, the hell's going on? My God.
Right, my daughter does a great job at staying quiet while I'm in the living room shooting a podcast. She's out there just trying to get a little ice in her bev, using the ice machine. It sounded like somebody was candlepin bowling out in the out in the kitchen.
I thought it was like
So,
you were anyway. Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh
Brent.
my God. Yeah. So, but maybe your agency tracks downtime as available in case of an emergency. So if it's not dumping fluids out of it completely immobilized, is it technically available? Just explain. Maybe that's why your PM compliance and your availability don't match. Is, yeah, our vehicles are sitting on the repair line. However, shit hits the fan, take it off the line, go roll. Is it technically available? Maybe, but explain the reason why. And that's a good thing for the essay portion, is to give those explanations so that the judges understand that not every agency runs the exact way that the judges would prefer us to run. We all have to run in our gray zones and make things just work. That's fleet. And so, yeah, don't be afraid to kind of run in a gray zone. Just explain why. Anyone that's seen my fleet and my operation probably could look at it and be like, wow, you guys are doing really good with what you have, but what you have isn't great. But we've made the list the past 3 years and, managed to improve from our first year from 86th place up to 68. And then we dropped back to 70. I'm hoping this year to kind of be in the same ballpark. We haven't made massive improvements, but we haven't lost ground. So, use that. Oh no, keep go.
Even 70, 86, also people who are listening, like, who haven't applied before, even if you're on honorable mentions, just to apply for this and be a part of it is huge. Like, just to even be in the realm, in the ballpark, in the talk of whatever, that's huge. I mean, that to me, just placing anywhere on there is such a win to me. So I agree with that. But I have a question for you guys. I want to know, like, what do you think? And I'll tell you mine first. I'll let you guys chew on it a little bit. But what do you think specifically, what your biggest ROI is from entering 100 best fleets? And I'll tell you mine is after we entered.
I hit the buzzer because I was ready for my answer. But go, you go.
Sorry. I'll hit mine because I'll tell you, as soon as I got back, I had meetings set up with commissioners, meetings set up with directors, meetings set up with managers all across Tarpon. They wanted to know what they could do to help us succeed, to continue to grow, to be the best, and just continue this path that we're on. Because we had a lot of internal buy-in from all the other employees throughout the city. We had internal buy-in from managers and my public works director. But then once everybody saw, okay, like, things are turning around over there, they're on a national scale now. Like, what can we do to help them continue to improve? not only just to get a number on a board and hang a banner in a shop. Okay, that's great, but for the people that are there, for the city that we're in, for the county that we're working for, what is going to be the best and how can we make them be the best and most successful? So that's where my position came in was, or my ROI was just buy-in from those around me.
I'm kind of along yeah, I'm kind of yeah, I was gonna say I'm kind of along the same, uh, probably what you're talking about. So for me, it was credibility, right? Like, so the things that we were doing and I was asking for and I was, whatever, um, tap dancing about, as there were, as Steve would say, like, yeah, go man, just go downtown and tap dance so we can get done, get what we need. So, the things that I was trying to pitch to the people downtown, and then, ranking and improving, I think that brought some credibility to what we were doing. And like you mentioned, when you're looking through that list, it was like, oh, New York City, right? Like massive people were on there, and they're like, "Wow, you're within, whatever it was at the time of large organizations like that." So it's like they have massive resources, and we're in the conversation. And so it was, yes, exactly like you said. Like, how can we help you continue to progress, right? And it was never like, yeah, it was always when it came time to it, is like, we're going to rank better than whatever we ranked last time. uh, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna apply, we'll see." But yeah, it was all about the credibility and kind of continuing the momentum and the recognition that gave them something to talk about too.
You know, just for the audience, if people don't know 100 Best, this contest, especially for Brent and Michael being on the public side, if you think about it, there's 50 states. It's not just the United States, it's the Americas, and it's any public entity. So, I mean, you just think if you have, DPW and your, water department and something else is three different agencies in your city or town. I mean, there's, who knows? There's thousands of agencies that could enter this. And when they do enter the public side of it, there's a lot of people that enter this contest. And there's a lot of really kick-ass fleets with a lot of money and a ton of people, and their city board or council or whatever, they're just pouring money into these fleets. So I mean, you're up against some really stiff competition, and again, to get ranked or even to get an honorable mention is amazing. But I think my ROI on this whole thing is it takes a lot of time and energy to add structure to your fleet, add track KPIs, put together reports. And if people aren't necessarily asking for these, but you're kind of doing them on your own to, help keep yourself in line, when you do apply and you can sit back and say, wow, all that time and energy I put into managing and tracking and trying to get better really pays off. Okay, now I know why I'm doing this. And now I know what I can do, and I can see the benefit of all of kind of, the different things that you're tracking and talking about on a day-to-day basis and trying to improve. So I think it's the justification of the hard work that you put in and day out to see yourself get on the list is pretty awesome.
So to put a number to it on the public fleet side, I had, and this is an AI number, so I'm not going to, put my hand on a Bible, but it was over 64,000 fleets are in the continental US on the government side. So you make that top 100 list, and not all 64,000 apply. You don't have to advertise that when you're talking to your bosses. They're eligible. Say the word eligible to apply. Suddenly, you're number, 70 out of 64,000. Holy crap, we're doing amazing. But yeah, so yeah, the return on investment, the investment of it doesn't cost anything. So that's a bonus. You don't have to go to a budget committee or ask and be like, oh man, you don't even have to be a NAFA member. You're welcome to apply as any fleet, period. Put in for it. It doesn't cost. Um, so the only investment that you have to have is your time. The returns that you can get from a few hours of your time, I think I average about 25 to 30 hours to get my application done per year. Um, but the time benefit that you can get, the payback on it, is maybe you're having a hard time getting that meeting with executive leadership. Hey, you get to invite them to a barbecue now for winning an award. You get to show off that your staff is worthy of a international competition. And that that grip coming and like that motivation and everything really gets people to light up. I mean, in my own case, we got granted the ability to open up a major consulting project to look at getting a new facility and review our fleet and kind of see where we can modernize and get things moving better. That has ended up to the tune of like a little over $250,000 that we got cleared to go through a major study that if we had never applied or tried, that definitely wouldn't have happened. So make sure that you use it as a tool internally to benchmark and create your path of growth and how to get better, but use it as a way to sell how to get better. Like you now have the roadmap, but do you have the tools to get there? Well, this gives you the legs to stand on to ask and be like, hey, we're doing okay. We could do a lot better. Let's do better.
I want to go back to a point that you made, Brent, earlier, which I thought was a really good point that we just kind of continued past, which was you didn't say this, but basically what you said was choose your KPIs carefully that you're sharing on the application because they're not all created equal. And this was, I think, a huge thing that I had this conversation with a couple fleet professionals, one of which was, she was pretty disappointed that she thought she was going to perform better. So we had a conversation at length, and she was telling me about some of the things that she shared. And I told her, I was like, look, those are impressive. But the thing is that other fleets aren't doing that. So that's more of like a cool, like sustainability kind of thing, or like something you put in the essay that you expand on. But when you're talking like for like, and you're trying to compare against others, you want to throw the important KPIs out there, like, asset availability or PM compliance or technician productivity or efficiency or, like some of the major heavy hitting ones, right? Like I remember when I was in Norfolk, when I got there, one of the ones that one of the KPIs that we're measuring monthly that they would share with like city manager and stuff was like, how many gallons of waste oil did you recover this month? And I was like, what the hell do you want that for? And that's what I said, but not an email. So I was like, well, why? And they're like, oh, I can't remember what the reason was. I was like, can I give you some KPIs that matter? And I was like, and here's some KPIs that are important that other fleets are measuring. Some of these other major ones from, and I pulled the KPIs directly from 100 Best Fleets. So yeah, Brent, really good point, right? So KPIs that you're sharing matter.
And you know what's interesting too? We talk about everybody's fleet is a little bit different. So even though you're measuring the same KPI, like my direct versus indirect time, right? So you're talking about technician efficiency. Because we have one and a half technicians, the technician has a ton of indirect responsibilities. He's got to order parts, he's got to schedule vehicles, he's got to do road tests. So in a shop where you have technicians that are fully dedicated to the floor, they have parts runners, they have all kinds of things like that, their direct time is going to be really, really high. But in my shop, hey man, if we get to like 70% direct versus indirect, we're doing really good because, 30% of our time is, ordering parts and, bringing vehicles around, writing up work orders, scheduling the work for the other day. So I think that's the important part where you touch on it a little bit in the response, but maybe dive into it a little bit heavier in the summary. But another point that the guys try to make when they're doing the webinar, they have to review all of these applications in about 30 days. So don't get really long winded about stuff. And the other interesting thing that I was caught up last year on my criteria responses, I wanted to make sure that I had the most well crafted paragraph and it flowed great and this and that. And when I sat down and I did the application review, they were like, nope, that's not for the criteria response. You need to make sure that your, bullet points or sentences or whatever, you're talking about the criteria, but and Brent brought it up great the other day, with his OCD. Make sure you hit those 450 characters. I mean, even if there's KPIs, again, that weren't mentioned on the webinar, put some information in there that you think is relevant and something that you have done in the past and you're doing to get better. And if it's your first time applying, you need to use relevant information, but everything that you've done so far is eligible to be in your first application because you've never applied before. So definitely take advantage of that first time you're applying. And even if it's an initiative you had, let's say, 3 years ago, it's still good to use. Don't use something from, when you were doing adjusting the timing on a two-stroke Detroit diesel. You don't want to put that type of stuff in there, but definitely, something within the past 3 years is all good information.
Hey, Drew, I do have a question for you about your application. Are you gonna make mention of that awesome, just that employee you had for a few hours that swept the floor?
We were trying to figure this out because Steve mentioned it in the podcast that you can put attachments on there. And me and Brent were thinking, we're like, man, I don't know if you can attach things unless they ask. If I can attach things, I'm gonna put in my bullpen floor sweeper Facundo Tassara, and he flew in to sweep the floor. So it wasn't even like he just came from the shop next door. He took a flight right up from Florida just to sweep and help out because I was shorthanded, not because he was obligated. I was down working by myself, and Facundo said, "You know what? I'm going to come and I'm going to make sure you have a nice, safe area to work."
Or did you not buy him lunch and beer before, during, or after that, though?
Well, hey,
So
let's
was he or
leave that
was he
out of the
not
application.
obligated?
We don't need to tell that part of the story, Drew. So,
Man,
We're not getting into the compensation, Mike, okay?
yeah, that
look, it's
floor
a
was
competition,
dangerous,
baby.
yeah. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it. If you add that, I'll talk to some people to make sure that you can get further up on the list because of that.
All right. Do we have some kind of closing words on 100 Best? I think we've kind of exhausted this thing. I know we got some other stuff to talk about. For me, and I think Facundo will reiterate this 100 times over, just apply. Just apply. If you've even kind of thought about it, open up the application, start it, send it in. If you don't make it this year, at least you can do the application review, or it'll set you up better for next year because you'll understand exactly the KPIs that you're missing and you can get those reports put together and be ready for next year. So definitely apply. It's great. And there's so many benefits from it.
Like
Yeah.
my favorite boss said, Michael Scott, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Okay, no Office fans in here? I'll just go fuck myself. That's fine. Okay, never mind. That's
You
fine.
mess up. You almost mess up 100% of the quotes that you go after.
That was, I almost pushed it, but I saved it. Okay, almost pushed
You brought it back. You brought it back.
I did.
Fool me once.
Shame on you. Fool me twice. Well, you can't fool me again. You already fooled me.
That was the epic mess up of all time. But
Best George Bush quote. What was better, that or the golfing? Where he's
the best one was when you were like, tip or stip to stern or stern to something, and you didn't even know that you were making like a naval quote, dude. You're on like your first.
Talking about George Bush, not me. Although I know I am more popular than the George Bush.
George Bush, yeah, both Bushes combined, yeah. Yeah, Mike for president. Yeah, I guess I won't add too much more to what Drew said, but yeah, just what's the since we're talking about like people from the past, what's the lady from the 80s? Wasn't she bald and she stop the insanity? I think it was stopped in the 80s or the 90s. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Maybe not the 80s. Hold on. It's maybe the 90s. Anyway, she would say, just stop the insanity, stop the bullshit, just apply because you're going to be busy next year. You're going to be short staffed. You're going to be whatever. Just do it. No more excuses.
Yeah. No, 100%. Just tell your story, tell the truth, enjoy it, have some fun with it, and show up to INE. You know, why not? You're going to learn stuff, and you get to see a cool award ceremony, and you might get inspired to go after your CAFM, and. There's a lot of really cool stuff that happens with it. So just, yeah, like everyone said, just freaking apply, do the thing. Yeah, you might be a guest, you know.
Yeah, last person to buy us a drink is a winner. So that's where we're at.
That's
I like
right.
that.
First person to buy us a drink is a winner too.
Or are we just the winners? I mean, come on. Oh, goodness. All right.
So, shifting gears, hopefully you're all inspired to go ahead and apply for 100 Best Fleets. If you're not, find inspiration and go apply. So, before the show, we were talking about some other stuff here, and I know the last episode we talked about manufacturers a lot, and to bring it back again, Ford dropped the Lightning electric pickup. Now, granted, my fleet never got into EVs, and I venture to say I don't think any of us really did, but it's been something that has been kind of a hot topic, especially on the government side, on public fleet, that we need to start adopting EVs and push. And now all of a sudden we're kind of backtracking, and that's an interesting thing politically. And I'm just curious if you guys are feeling any pressure come off. Facundo, have you been hearing from other groups and hearing that pressure's coming off on EV push? And are we excited for the next gen Lightning that's going to be a range extended electric?
Yeah. So, funny, I think I talked to Drew the other day about this. It was shortly after I had a conversation with somebody in California, and they were like, looks like I'm buying a Rivian because they had purchased or were going to purchase, I don't remember exactly where they were, some Ford Lightnings, and then all this happened. And they're like, well, despite what's going on, maybe outside of California, we still have political pressure they're like, we're not changing. Go buy some EVs. Actually, there's still a rule in California, in some applications that any replacement has to be alternative fuel or EV or something like that. But there's a very specific thing. And so he was giving me an example like, there's a piece of equipment that's 25 years old that we need to replace, and there's no other replacement anywhere near like hybrid or electric or anything like that. Like it's got to be a diesel, right? And they're like, nope, you can't do it. So they got to maintain what they got. But yeah, I mean, it's still pinching some folks in some areas, particularly in California, because they're not backing off. And I love EVs. I spent time working for EV startup. I was doing EVs when I was in fleet back in 2015. But application, like that's the only way it works.
Proponent of managing your carbon footprint. Brent brought something up that was great earlier, and something that I implemented in my fleet this year, which I'm really proud of, is an idle mitigation system. Right, so you're not going to find a 11,000-pound ambulance that is dedicated to community service being electric. You're not going to be able to charge it. There's no solar panels. The main issue that we have with ambulances is they have what they call a reserve capacity. So from your tear weight or your dry weight plus loaded equipment, and they calculate for a 150-pound occupant in every seating position, even if somebody isn't there, you have to have a certain reserve capacity over and above that weight that keeps you underneath the GVW. So adding batteries and stuff like that isn't something that we can really do. So last year, I I think made a big push with leadership, and we chose a very cost-effective system. I want to say it was under $3,000 a unit, and it pretty much monitors. Oh no, it doesn't pretty much. It monitors the cabin temperature, the patient compartment, battery output, and once everything is within the criteria, it's I think between 68 and 78 degrees, it shuts the truck off. And it's kind of cool. It tells you, hey, going into eco mode. It has like one of those little, Siri type voices. And the other kind of cool thing about it too is when it goes to startup, it actually has an audible alert outside the vehicle, so that people that potentially working on it open the hood, but it has hood switches and all kinds of stuff like that. So, um, this EV thing getting shut down, I think county to county and state to state, I think there's still a huge push on it. And I think people are still really trying to figure out infrastructure issues and stuff like that. I know our friends over at the Massachusetts Department of Operational Vehicles, what is it, Facundo? OSV, OMV? I think it's OMV or something like that. OVM, yeah. They still have a huge push. I mean, they have all kinds of, prisoner transport. They do Department of like recreation, stuff like that, and they're really trying to meet these mandates that the governor has put in place. So I think even though certain models are being shut down, there's still a pretty big surge for EV in different states and different counties.
So I'm just going to jump in on the next generation Lightning, which is going to be apparently a range extended electric vehicle. So it'll be a full electric powertrain with an onboard generator. Um, I was super excited about the Ram charger that was supposed to be coming out that has been delayed indefinitely and keeps getting shifted back because I really like the idea of that platform. It takes away the infrastructure limitation because the vehicle could just charge itself on its own generator, powered by easy to access gasoline that we have 120 years of infrastructure on. Now that Ford looks like the Lightning is following on that platform, Mike, I'm going to kind of hit you with a question here, but I know your sheriff's assets have to be available in like emergency weather to be able to power various light systems and traffic lights and all that type of stuff. Would a range extended EV with a high output generator, because I think they're going to be like a 50 or 100 amp, 240 volt service, be a benefit on the emergency services side? Like it wouldn't be every vehicle. You're not going to replace your patrol assets, but administrative and stuff, you get the benefit of going to a greener technology, while still having a longer range or a longer lasting, generator asset or something like that. What's your thoughts?
That would be effective and something that you would need to see, and it would need to be tested. It's not anything like you said that we would put in patrol, that we would put with anybody on the road, but for admin type vehicles, it's definitely something that we could do. But specifically, you brought up light, like the street lights and things like that. Well, all those are ran off of our green and whites. Our green and white are on the road. Our deputy vehicles have the majority have them a connector in the front where the county will provide a inverter converter. I don't remember, and then we plug it into the car. Then the car wire charges the streetlights and runs the streetlights all night. But the reason it has to be on a green and white is because we keep our lights on, and then it like also provides a sheriff's presence. Now, it just depends on how an EV or an extended EV with a generator would work with lights on all day, all night, and power the streetlights. We have a spec ops team, if you will, who will drive around in a fuel truck and just fuel those vehicles all day. they'll take a few hour break, go back out, fuel a quarter, go out and then take a break. They go out and fuel a quarter, then just keep doing a rotation. That's kind of how it works here. But I do see a use for that application here. As we were talking before we started recording, we're starting to implement some hybrid Camrys and things like that for the admin side. We just don't have any. The one thing the sheriff, if it's a SUV, it's a deputy used SUV, so it's on the road. If it's a truck, it's only for spec ops. Trucks are not ever going on the road. I think there was a point in the past where they were trying to push to put the trucks on beaches, but those are only 4x4 Tahoes. If it's an SUV, it's green and white, and that's it. So there's like some stipulation, not some stipulation, but you know, the sheriff wants a presence of, if it's a Tahoe, there's a deputy in it, and that deputy is there to provide assistance. So it would have to be under a certain stipulation, certain rule, or just a different type of vehicle, if you will.
Have you guys heard what type of support that Ford is still giving to these poor people that have now bought Lightnings and they're just shutting it right down? I mean, obviously there's got to be warranty and stuff like that involved, but I mean, one of the big things about EVs, and especially with batteries, they should, last a little bit longer. And now all of a sudden, if you shut that down, I mean, we know how quickly parts become obsolete and different things like that. And if they're not making it anymore and they're not making money off it, what are they going to do?
I think I might be completely making this up, but I remember from my time at my dad's shop, and having to deal with older vehicles, random older vehicles coming in. I think there's a requirement, especially if the manufacturer is still around. It's 8 years that they have to continue to maintain. No, Brent's saying no. Am I miss? So I'm making that up. What?
I've been researching this a lot lately to make some points. Um, I have been unable to find any law, statute, or requirement in any fashion other than for the extent of the vehicle's warranty. Parts are not required to be available. So powertrain, 5 years, 60,000. I think the EVs have 100,000, and some are getting like a 10-100. The interesting benefit though, like talking about like the battery packs, that's a huge expense. There are companies, and I've used them on like 2008, 2009 Ford Escape hybrids from back, almost 20 years ago now. But most of the battery packs you can take apart, and they can actually rebuild a good battery pack off of 2 degraded battery packs. Because usually you only have like 2 or 3 cells that actually fail entirely. And so they can take a couple of good cells that are in similar condition, transfer them into the battery pack and get the battery pack back online. There's an entire group that does that I've used several times, that they warranty them. You can get a 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year warranty. Like they do a really good job with reconditioning the battery packs and all that. So I think the aftermarket is probably going to take care of those fairly well. I think the major drive components and anything that's a unique body component, once these things start having accidents and everything, they're going to be unrepairable very quickly. So yeah, if you did adopt, you might be, 3 to 5 years before you're up shit creek without a paddle.
Mike, this might be a good question. At Flag for how they have the on the last day they have the OEM whatever that might be a good question for those guys, just to like clarify a little bit.
Definitely. And I want to say, and I don't know. I always assumed or always heard there was a mandate of like 8 years after production, parts needed to be available. But also, like Brent said, you could just go to that, but it's a Ford Lightning. I don't know, but usually you just go to AutoZone in Napa or wherever and get whatever you want. But that is true. And also, I mean, they have that at NAFA. They have the round table with the Ford and Chevy and all that stuff too, where we can ask them there as well, because that's actually a very good question.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was NAFA or a different event that I was on a webinar, but there was a whole long, I think it was an hour-long conversation about this battery recycling program and how they're not necessarily taking the batteries and putting them back into use with EVs. They're putting them in like solar panel grids and stuff like that to absorb like the extra energy from the grid. And almost it was one of those things that sounded like it was going to be an extended warranty type of like offer where you would purchase like a new battery subscription, when you get an EV, and then they would be able to swap it out and take your old battery and, repurpose it or whatever. And I thought it was pretty interesting because obviously we all know these batteries are awful to make. They only mine lithium in one or two countries, and I mean all those nasty chemicals are very hard to come by. And I think maybe that's another reason that's stalling this whole EV push is until they figure out a better way to build these batteries. It's just gonna be very cost prohibitive.
All right, Brent, what else you got?
Way to put me on the spot, man. My goodness.
I want to go back to an interesting point Drew made about the batteries. So I think here's me throwing some bullshit numbers out again. We'll see. Brent might need to fact check me. An EV battery, like when it starts to give you issues on the vehicle, it still can retain 80% of the original charge. Is that right? So yeah, so putting it in a grid type thing or like a energy storage kind of a capacity, it's there's a lot of different uh, lives that these batteries can have when it can only still hold a certain percentage of the original charge. Um, but anyway, I'm going to throw some numbers out there and fact check myself. Thanks, Brent. Appreciate that.
Yep. Nope. I got you back on that one. Yeah, the 80% rule is pretty accurate. That's the standard is once you've lost 20% of your overall capacity, it's considered degraded and no longer viable for a vehicle application. Interestingly, that's actually why Tesla is able to increase battery life through a software update. They only charge to 80% when they're brand new, so they can keep extending that out to get extra life. Pay the subscription fee and you get more mileage. Hey, everyone's doing it. So they're the easy ones to pick on because they're the most open about it, I guess. So yeah, I don't really have anything else super planned. Well, we haven't gotten together since Christmas. Did you guys have a good Christmas? What gifts did you get? What gifts did you give? That was like a month ago, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids got spoiled. I got spoiled. Everybody got. It was a good Christmas. Good
Nice.
holidays. It was just wonderful overall. Family in
Right
town
on.
and stuff. It was nice.
I think we're all data nerds. I got a running watch, and man, everybody's been making fun of me because I keep looking at it to see what it's talking to me about, and it's beeping. And listen, I'm old. I haven't had one of those, smartwatch things in a long time. So I'm tracking everything. It's telling me about my steps, my heart rate. I start talking to you guys, it starts beeping. It's like, oh God, you're too stressed out. I'm like, oh man, I got to stop talking to these guys,
Are you saying that we get your heart rate up?
Hey, in more ways than one, you handsome devils. I love it.
Oh, man. Mike, we got to get you off this show pretty quick here, man.
Been up since 4, baby.
Let's see. I went to Miami for whatchamacallit. So my brother lives down there for New Year's. So that was fun. I was sorry for anybody who lives in Miami and for whoever's listening Miami. But, when we go down there and people I know, they're like, yeah, the best part about living in Miami is we live so close to the United States. So it is like, like you go down there and you get to go to all these fun restaurants. We went to this like Middle Eastern restaurant, was amazing. So anyway, that was fun.
I did a bunch of skiing. I know you guys don't know anything about skiing, but we hit the slopes a bunch. I kind of did some crashing and burning. We got crazy, the skiing was fun. It's been cold up here, so that's always interesting. The New England Patriots are in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. I think of all of our teams in football, nobody else is in the playoffs. So I'm going to be going to the game on Sunday. That'll be fun.
Are you saying that my team is the Raiders just because they came down here? Okay, good. Don't accuse me of that. Oh man, can we bring back broken knees and broken legs and like forcing teams to abandon the game because they don't have enough players left? Make football great again. All right. Well, guys, I think we're obviously winding down. We're just getting dumb with our comments at this point. So thank you all for joining us on the Not Just Fleet podcast. Obviously, get out, enter the 100 best fleets, put in your application, hit us up in the comments, like, subscribe, do all of the good things. We appreciate all the feedback. See you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, see, I did the wand. Did you see I did the wand there? I was like, bye.
Oh, he's pointing it out. All right.